So welcome everyone to this month's Graphic Arts Alliance webinar. We're really excited to be here with the team from Billerud. We've had a very long-standing partnership with Billerud, and they have been very wonderful to work with. We are going to be getting a great paper update today, state of the industry update from the team. We have Peter Ross here, Christy Burris, Tim Nordine and Steve Gensner are all here from Billerud. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tim, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and make sure we can get the content up for you. So Tim, it is all you.
All right, we will go ahead and get started. Peter, if you want to kick us off, I think you have the first few slides and introduction and agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim, and thanks, Wendy, for setting this up. We really appreciate the opportunity to get in front of a number of folks here on the call to talk about Billerud. We're very excited about a lot of things going on in our company, and in the short time we have, we'll try to get through, sort of hit the highlights. So on the front page here is George Bennington. So we'll go through introduction in a second. George, I don't think is on the call at the moment, but he may join later. You can go to the next slide. Kind of this is more detailed in terms of who we are. So myself, so I'm the sales director for Billerud for the Northeast and Canada areas. George Bennington, who kind of runs our relationship with GAA and also is a territory manager in the Metro New York area, is he's just it's October. It's a busy time. There's a commitment he has, and he's hopefully going to join us in a little bit. Tim Nordine is on as well. Tim runs Billerud's brand and product marketing. And Christy Burris is a brand manager at Billerud, who is extraordinary in her support of us, and in particular in our digital efforts in the graphic paper space. Next slide. So yeah, the agenda is pretty simple today. Quick overview of Billerud, some kind of quick looks at the paper industry as we have seen it, and then we'll talk about take one particular product area of Billerud's that we'll spend a little deeper dive on and have some times for Q&A after. Next slide. So Billerud, so many of you probably on the call recognize our grade names, but sometimes I feel like there's a little less recognition of Billerud, the company. Billerud did purchase Verso about, I think it's 3 years now. It's hard to believe, time goes fast. So Billerud is based in Sweden, our parent company, and we have two regions. It's Billerud North America and Billerud Europe. Obviously, the North American business is what we are talking about here today. If we look at Billerud as a company, we're $4 billion in sales combined, US dollars, about 6,000 employees. You see on there with the 10 production units. It's a very Swedish, I think, way to do it. Those are primarily mills, and if you look at the bottom 3 locations, Escanaba and Quinnesec are North American mills located in the Upper Peninsula. And Wisconsin Rapids is where we have a vast converting center. Kind of our product, the product type we do in a very broad sense, you can see on the right column there. Really proud of the company. We are a member of the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, which is a kind of global and regional indices that kind of assess and rank company performance. And we've been a member for many years now and continue to be so. We're very proud of that. Next slide. So we do have certainly a global presence in Europe. You can see in the red dots there, those are our manufacturing locations primarily, and offices located throughout the world, which gives us a good presence for the variety of products that we do manufacture. Next slide. So what are we doing? So in North America, we'd like to consider ourselves as a efficient, quality-focused service leader in the graphic paper space. We are well positioned with our mills from a fiber supply, from fiber supply location, geographical location, as well as we have a really good proximity to many of our customers, and helps with supply chain issues and really helps with overall service. We are 100% integrated and procure wood only from sustainably managed forests. Some of the highlights that we're very excited about, we'll talk more about this later in the presentation, but we continue to invest in our mills. And in particular, one thing I just want to highlight is that we are very much committed to the graphic space. We do have other product areas, which we'll talk about briefly, but our investments are to make sure we maintain our efficiency in our mills, but also ensure that we continue to grow and support the graphic paper business, because it's really the core of the North American operations. That next bullet there we'll touch on briefly, and as to why we're going into some other areas. And I think the third thing is very important. We are committed to science-based targets with a clear transition plan to really reduce our carbon footprint. And in particular, you'll see that in North America by 2030 with a dramatic reduction of CO2 emissions that we're in the process now of developing and changing in our manufacturing locations. Next slide. So this is kind of a representative of where we are today and where we're going. You can see our major product segments in Billerud North America. So there's specialty labeled papers. We look at that from 2025 on forward to be pretty much going forward with relatively the same volume, perhaps a little bit of growth, and that's really release liner and face stock. Our market pulp is pretty stable as well. We expect that to continue. Notice that the middle section there, our graphic paper, which really is the bulk of what we do in North America, there's a secular decline. We don't have to get into the reasons why. I think we all on the call understand why there's secular decline in graphic paper. So the question is, and what we are doing as a company is looking at, as that decline is gradual, but as it occurs, what do we do as a company going forward? So you can see that basically the answer is we are filling our capacity by expanding into paperboard, a variety of products. But again, our commitment to graphic papers is really extraordinary. We continue to look at the market. We are expanding basis weights, expanding products, really to support graphic papers and to support the evolving technologies that are occurring in the graphic paper space. So I'll turn this over to Tim, talk a little bit about the industry.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. I think we have Steve Gettner on to handle this section of industry.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I didn't make the list of attendees, but I can assure you I'm here. This is Steve Gettner, Director of Marketing Services. I've just got a handful of slides here to talk about the markets. And unfortunately, I can't see the presentation that's shared, but I have one open in front of me. So we'll go to the first slide that shows the bar charts. And this is a coated free sheet. We're going to be talking about the coated free sheet market with the time we have. The top is a monthly view of demand, and the bottom is a monthly view of North American shipments. There's 24 months represented on the chart. And then over to the right is the PPPC's forecast for next year. A couple things to note here. You can see the big rise in demand going from 23 to 24. And, we all recognize that was a bit overstated. That was inventory that was really run off. And so the demand really wasn't as low as it's shown here on the 2023. But anyway, looking at through July of this year, the demand is off about 8%, 7.8%, which is pretty consistent with historical compound annual growth rates in the decline of coated free sheet. PPPC is forecasting that it'll decline another 6.7% going into next year. I will note, though, that the August number is missing. The reason that number is not posted yet is because the imports are not available. Due to the government shutdown, there's no imports being reported to PPPC from the US. All they have in their database is the Canadian imports. So we don't have a true August number yet. For shipments, you can see that the increase from 23 to 24 is a little more muted, again, because the demand was overstated because of the inventory. But similarly, the August year to date for shipments is down 8%, very similar to the demand. And the forecast for next year is to be down another 7%. So we'll roll to the next slide. And, so as secular demand decline happens, it drives capacity reduction. This chart shows that over the last 6 years or so, there's been about a 40% decline in North American coated freesheet capacity. Closures are listed to the right. Going back to 2020, we would include the Verso Luke mill and also the start of the SAPI conversion at PM1 in Skowhegan. So significant drop-offs in 2020, 2021. There was kind of a restart or an increase in speed at Willamette Falls that brought the capacity back up. And then you see the continued decline since that time. Most significantly was last year. Willamette Falls was gone to auction and went down. And of course, the SAPI conversion at PM2 at Somerset. I guess the forecast shows a slight decline and driven mostly by conversions to paperboard, including the impact of our own evolution project that Peter mentioned earlier. Quick note on market price. The capacity reduction obviously balances the demand decline to keep the operating rates manageable for the producers. The operating rates year to date are in the upper 80s and forecasted to remain in that range for next year, which is a pretty significant surge from capacity utilization of last year, late 23, that it was in the low 70s. So with the operating rates rising and the tariffs in place, we had a round of market increases. RISI is forecasting prices to remain stable after this recent increase. They do show a fourth quarter 2026 slight increase on top of their current index. But they also note that if the tariffs are overturned in the courts, the most recent increase may not be sustainable. So just a little bit on market pricing. I'll switch to the next graph. And, I've got a slide on inventory and I've got a slide on imports. And obviously those were the two big things, the two big influencers on paper shipments and paper availability over the last 3 to 4 years. Before explaining this slide, I would just note that mill inventories, all the mill producers report to PPPC and AFPA. Mill inventories are hovering around 32 days on hand, and it's been that way for the last couple of years. If you go back a decade or two, that was 6 months on hand or more. There's been a pretty big shift in philosophy for the North American mills. I think most people know that. Running up inventory and slower markets to fill open time seems to be a thing of the past. But this slide is attempting to show what the inventory is held by merchants and printers. And this is not an exact science. There's 2 commodity codes that we follow, one that shows the value of inventory at printers, which is in blue here, and one that shows the value of inventory in merchants. And this is not just coated papers. This includes ink, rollers, everything, right? So it's not a really great indication, but certainly if you're looking at the solid lines, you can see that the inventory did go up significantly in value, and that follows what we saw in the market. So we think it's well worth tracking. So the reason there's a dotted line in there is because these values are shown in nominal dollars. And if you take an inflation adjust it to real dollars, you can see that the values are lower. And some of the increases that are kind of visible in the last couple of years are not really there when you consider inflation. I think I've got an animation here, and if you haven't done it already, Wendy, just click once. And that green box just highlights that we're not seeing, according to this metric, any significant increase in inventories downstream. The other thing that's kind of interesting in this graph is that the printing inventory, if you look at the first point, which is January of 2019, and compare it to the last point, July of 2025, there's not been a significant change in real dollars of inventory. However, if you look at the merchants, there's been a pretty significant change, 30% reduction. I'm not sure exactly how to interpret that. I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if they're holding less inventory or there's less merchants holding inventory, but there's been a shift in where that inventory is held. On the next graph is just a view of coated free sheet imports. So this is sheets only. The three bars on the left represent 2022 through 2024. During that time, there was the big run up in 2022 due to the coated free sheet, or actually all paper shortage, and the big pullback, and then the more normal year in 2024. And through it all, the percent of demand made up by the imports was roughly 55 to 60%. That's the gray line that you see there. So looking at the last 12 months, I guess the one thing that sticks out is the surge in March of this year. That was really a reaction to the expected tariff implementations on April 2nd. I think Liberation Day, as it was called. And other than that, the imports have been relatively flat over the past 10 months. July numbers are the most recent we have, and they're showing imports represent a little over half of demand. One final slide for me is just a market summary points heading into 2026. So yes, the USPS did announce under the control of a new Postmaster General that there will not be a postal increase. I'm sure everybody on the phone has caught that news. There will not be an increase in H1 of next year. Tariffs are not completely settled. There's three kinds of tariffs, maybe more, but the ones that are really in the courts right now are the IEEPA, and those are affecting the sheet markets and other coated markets. Oral arguments are expected to be heard by the Supreme Court early November, and we expect a ruling on that December and March timeframe. Moving down here, the North American coated free sheet market will remain snug through 2026, really regardless of what the tariff decision is. And, geopolitical events and regional tensions can't be ruled out as factors. We've obviously got the EUDR situation, and that's kind of in flux, more than likely to be postponed another year. Europe is a bit of a mess in terms of operating rates and so on. So there's been just one shutdown this year, the Etrigan mill, and that's 300,000 tons of coated free sheet, but the capacity in Europe is about 3.7 million, so only 8%. But market reports and benchmarking tools do highlight there's a number of coated free sheet mills that are facing mounting pressure from high energy costs and weak demand, and several assets are considered high risk for closure. So that's what I have today.
All right. Thanks, Steve, for that market update. I just have a quick update before I turn it over to Christy on inkjet. But Wendy, the slide with the title Product Way Forward is what I'll cover. Over to the right, there's a graphic listing our existing graphic papers, our carton board, container board, label papers, and also our pulp. So this is on our website if you're curious as to our products offered in North America. That is what you'll find, and you'll find descriptions and sell sheets for each of those grades. On the graphic papers side, we list the flexibility in production. We really have 4 different paper machines at our 2 mills that make our products. And so whether it's from number 4 coated groundwood, number 3 web, number 2 web, our calipers, cover grades, text weights, whether it's web or sheet offerings, these are made on one of those 4 machines, and each of the 4 machines kind of has its position or priority in grades that it makes. But like Peter talked about on the graph that he had, we're committed to graphic papers going into the future. We're investing certainly in a move to packaging, but that investment really is in terms of what I think of as three things. One is core size changes. So most of the graphic markets are in 3-inch or 6-inch core sizes. On the packaging side, you end up with 4-inch cores, that is container board, and then 12-inch cores, which is the carton board or SBS. And so we're investing in changes to the core sizes. Core diameters or roll diameters are especially important in the SBS world. So bigger than 50-inch diameters is an investment that we're making. And then at both of our mills, investing in capability to make a higher basis weight. And so we're, whether it's drying or dewatering or press sections, strategies like that allow us to make a heavier basis weight that match up to the SBS or the liner markets are really our investments. So I guess my point in terms of that is that each of those investments don't preclude us from what we make today. Just because we invest in making 12-inch cores or 4-inch cores or bigger diameters, that doesn't mean we can't make 3 or 6-inch cores or 50-inch diameters. Because we invest in heavier weights doesn't mean we can't make hex weights, 60-pound and less 45-pound, even at E4. So those things still exist. So our commitment to graphic papers is consistent. And you'll see some of those things. We have some planned promotions here rolling out in the fourth quarter, some product line extensions, expansions in basis weights of graphic grades and sheets that we will introduce to you here in the next few weeks, hopefully, or months. Our commitment to label papers, that's essentially our E3 machine, but our ability to make label papers, which is release, base, and face stock, exists on not just E3, but also at our other machines as well. And we've been developing those solutions. We talked a lot about packaging papers, which is liner and SBS. And so we see commercial printers joining the packaging world, making top sheet printing sheets that eventually end up in some sort of packaging application, whether it's digital printing, which Christy will talk about here in a little bit, or offset printing for larger jobs. But the trends in packaging are similar to what we've seen in graphic over time, which is shorter runs, more graphics, more personalization, regionalization, things like that have driven value of the printed piece in those categories. It's been a product development priority for us to grow in packaging. We've just, with the secular decline of what we traditionally think of as big volume graphic grades, like catalogs, magazines, things like that, has opened the door really for us to grow more in packaging categories for the future. We're also an integrated pulp producer, so we sell pulp on the open market. That will continue. And so that's a key part of our product offering. We serve the North American market with northern bleached hardwood pulp. So with that, I'll turn it over to Christy to talk about a subsegment of our graphic papers, one that we see is growing and one that we see a lot of commercial printers investing in. So Christy, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to have the opportunity today to talk about our expanding portfolio of papers for the growing inkjet market. But before talking more specifically about these papers, I did want to share some market insights based on some of the activities that we've been participating in so far this year. So if you want to go to the next slide, Wendy. We are continuing to engage in many ways at Billerud with the market, the digital print market specifically. Just this year, we've attended Inkjet Summit so far, D-Scoop, Think Ahead. Those are all events that we've sponsored. We're also planning to sponsor and attend the Digital Packaging Summit coming up in November, and then also planning to attend Printing United coming up in later this month. In conjunction with the Inkjet Summit, we also again sponsored the NAPCO research study for this year, which is titled The Next Generation Inkjet Investment. So in all of these activities, this is how we stay up to date on the printing technology, printing trends, so we can try to be better suppliers of solutions that are needed as these printing dynamics change out in the marketplace. So in the next few slides, I'm going to share some of the highlights from some of these activities, and particularly the research study, that I think are interesting and most relevant. So if you want to go to the next slide, Wendy. Okay, one of the key themes that we're obviously seeing is inkjet print continues to grow. We're seeing more press installations, more paper volume going through these presses, and more applications that are going towards inkjet. And on the flip side, we're seeing that offset and dry toner in particular continue to decline. Overall, we see that the market acceptance is continuing to gain momentum. Now that the quality is, I think as a few years ago, they talked about the quality being good enough, and now quality is even being compared to offset-like quality. In addition, with the inkjet, seeing a lot of benefits in terms of productivity and profitability. So like looking at the bottom left chart, that's a chart that was taken from this NAPCO research that we sponsored. It's kind of a snapshot of the 167 print providers that were surveyed in this study. Shows the view of today on the left and the view in 2 years on the right. The chart is showing kind of the percentages of print. And what I think is interesting on this is that the production inkjet in particular, as of right now, is taking out about a total of about 20% of that total volume, 8% being production inkjet sheet fed, whereas 12% is web fed. Then looking in 2 years, where we're seeing that going based on this study, seeing more growth in both the sheet fed and web fed inkjet. Those are the biggest percent of change. So the growth is expected to continue in inkjet, but of course in part at the expense of offset and toner applications. In terms of the benefits that are being seen, it seems like the more success stories that are being shared, the more inkjet is being adopted and embraced for a broader range of applications. In particular, production waste is being decreased. The NAPCO research study of those respondents that were surveyed, on average, about 10% waste reduction. Then the number of press operators could be reduced on average about 1 person, and then organizations' profits approaching 10% increase. So those are some pretty decent numbers that are helping to drive more growth in production inkjet. And with that said, it's not standing still. The OEMs, and part of my role, I've been collaborating with the OEMs, partnering with them to doing testing, certifying our products. They continue to expand their inkjet press capabilities. One example of that is that they're all trying to move into higher caliper, higher basis weight capabilities, and a big driver for that is to get into packaging applications. So if we go to the next slide. So along with this growth in inkjet, just seeing some overall shift in the print market dynamics. So definitely seeing that print is shifting from traditional methods over to inkjet applications. But we're also seeing that those that are adopting production inkjet, it's enabling them to expand into new applications that maybe they haven't participated in previously. So in the chart off to the bottom left, this is something also was taken from the NAPCO research study, which I thought was interesting. It talks about, of the primary sources of volume of your work that was printed on inkjet presses, how much of it was transferred from sheet fed offset, digital toner, and how many were new applications versus transferring from web offset. So the primary sources of print volume for inkjet, these new inkjet web installations, at least of those that were surveyed, does appear to come from sheet fed offset and digital toner devices. But there's a significant portion that's also just new applications that were enabled by inkjet. And then the smaller percentage of that is transferring over from web offset. But along with all the benefits of inkjet, there still remains challenges. And off to the right, it lists the top challenges in inkjet implementation, with the top challenge being keeping inkjet press at capacity, so filling the capacity. And I know I hear time and time again when I'm talking to different people, once they have the press installation, then the presses are made to run, and the OEMs I think will even say that these presses, inkjet presses, are made to run. So filling up that capacity with enough work is a primary challenge. Some other challenges include pricing work, matching color offset work, and finishing challenges and bottlenecks. But another key challenge continues to be paper compatibility. So even though a lot of the presses, the inkjet web presses in particular, are designed and marketed to run standard off-the-shelf papers, it's not always quite that simple. And there are some paper compatibility challenges. And that's where we have at Billerud have stayed engaged with the OEMs, engaged with the print community in trying to make sure that we have solutions that are compatible as the technology changes and as these installations are becoming more prevalent. So that has kind of been the main idea of the EX program that we rolled out. And if you want to go to the next slide. Oh yeah, there we go. So we rolled out the EX grade line probably going back about 2 years now, starting with our Sterling Ultra EX offering and then expanding from there. And really the main idea of our EX is to ensure product compatibility with high-speed inkjet web presses. So we started off with our Sterling Ultra EX. We've expanded on that with higher caliper Sterling Points products, then got into more of the lightweight offering with Influence EX, and then into uncoated options with our Ideal Jet EX. And with our EX offering, we do some key things with this. First, these are all products that are tested and certified in working with the OEMs to ensure that they work on the presses, the high-speed inkjet presses. They have also demonstrated positive field performance on the variety of presses that are being installed. We also work with the mills that we identified these grades are going into inkjet web applications so that they have added inspections and make these product rolls to higher quality standards that are needed for these inkjet web presses. And then we also have the most common size of rolls stocked in inventory in order to have to provide more quick turn on orders. So we built this offering and we continue to expand. And again, as I said, as the OEMs continue to expand their capabilities, we're working with them to expand our offering. So I think when we did our last GA webinar, this was kind of what the portfolio looked like. And now we're glad to, if you want to click next again. I mentioned as the OEMs are getting into higher calibers, we're working on, we have now expanded our Sterling Points EX to 14 point. And another click on the uncoated options, we have expanded our Ideal Jet EX uncoated option to 60 pound. And then we have also introduced for direct mail and reply card type of applications, we have our next click. I'm having a pause here on my end, maybe not a.
Yeah, you paused for a minute, so maybe restart that section.
Caliper EX, which is a high yield print option in order. Was it breaking up a little bit? Do you hear me again?
You're back online. You're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we have our 14 point on the Sterling Points EX now, 60 pound for Ideal Jet EX uncoated, and then our 7 and 9 point Ideal Caliper EX options. So if you want to go to the next slide, just again recap the overall EX program and what it's all about. We could do a few clicks here. We're going to go around the wheel. First, it's an extensive portfolio. And again, this is aimed at high-speed inkjet web applications. It has, the products are all in this have exceptional product attributes and print quality, as we've demonstrated with in working with the OEMs. It has excellent roll quality to ensure reliable press performance. By stocking the items, we have expedited lead times, and we do have options to also do custom size options as well against our manufacturing runs. We're of course a domestic supply, so have that advantage. And we have been training customer service as well as our technical service reps on our inkjet offerings so that they can help to answer any questions up front. But especially our technical service reps have gotten really up to speed on troubleshooting issues, especially as presses are initially installed. And because we always seem to maybe have some quirky issues with inkjet. So it's really, we've expanded this offering. And if, a good place to start in looking, if you want more particulars on any of the products, specific products within the program, is certainly our website. But if there are additional questions beyond that, we would be happy to share further details. And at this point, maybe I'll turn it back to Peter if you want to have any closing remarks.
Thanks. Great. That's great, Christy. Thanks for that overview, and Steve and Tim as well. Yeah, any questions? We do appreciate, I can't emphasize enough, we do appreciate everyone listening and hearing what we're doing at Billerud. We're very excited about the path we're on right now, and it's exciting times. So I think there are good things ahead for us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for the presentation today. There certainly are some exciting things on the horizon. And I'm just curious, with the uncoated product, is that readily available now, direct buy or through merchants? How, if someone's interested in sourcing that particular product line, how might they go about that? Are you fully sourced at all the merchants?
Yeah, we are. We have. We've got the availability of all of our products through the portal, and at this point, the key to success, we think, in this program is having quick availability. So having that quick and able to be shipped within a day or two is really the key to success, because that's how these, in the commercial space, that's how the business works.
Yeah, and on the uncoated in particular, I would say the 50 and 55 pound basis weights are more readily available and stocked. The 60 pound, we are scaling up. We do have some stock, but that is one that we are working over the upcoming months to scale up and make more readily available. So
great. So I'm going to open the questions up to all the participants today. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can just click the raise hand button, and we can jump into a nice discussion here. And while we have everyone readily available to answer questions, and while everyone's thinking about some questions, I wanted to kind of dive back into some of the industry stats a little bit. It was interesting to see that chart where you kind of how Billerud has really been filling in, the top with the decline in the commercial papers, which we know the graphic papers is on the decline, but that packaging space, the paperboard space, and really where in the packaging, are you seeing this mostly as digital packaging that's in that growth segment, or are you seeing that as a traditional packaging converting kind of growth in the industry? Because there seems to be a lot of emphasis on that packaging growth in the industry. So I'm curious what you're observing, if that is like a true traditional growth that we're seeing on the offset side, or if it is on the digital side, or both.
This is Tim.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Tim, on the packaging side, especially the growth, we see, if you think about liner or container board, which is boxes, you see growth in white or coated liner for boxes. Think about Costco or Sam's Club and all the boxes that have the graphics on the outside. That's a growth segment, whereas brown box there's been capacity reductions this year of brown boxes. And so we see a growth in people desiring some version of white to put ink on, or coated to put better ink on, better graphics on to catch display space. We talk a lot about retail ready packaging, which is kind of white liner on the outside of boxes to catch attention. So we see that as a growth aspect of packaging and of container board. And certainly SBS in all of its aspects of replacing plastic or poly type of end uses is a growing part of that market. And so those two parts of those two markets are important for us, and that's really what we're focused on, is those growth areas. What we're not expanding in is brown liner, and so we're into the wider graphics aspect of each.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you. So if there are any other questions, I just have one other question. I'm going to bounce over to Christy for a minute. Before we went live with the webinar today, we were chatting about the Sterling line and the digital products, and you were mentioning about connecting with the OEMs for testing. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. And if you have, I think in the past I've seen a resource about the matchups with the different digital grades and how they've been tested and matching up with different digital equipment. And Christy, I wondered if you could speak to that for a minute.
Yeah. As part of our process, I mean, we supply roles, to the different OEM demo centers and do testing. And that's usually the way we do it. I mean, there are some times where we will test directly at printers to do that certification kind of process. And we continuously update a compatibility guidelines matrix of which products we recommend for which presses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And if you could send that over, we'll be sure to get that out to all of the members too. I think that's a great resource for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone has any questions, I will certainly, you can throw something in the chat or raise your hands. So any other last questions before we wrap up? Okay. I think we've got a lot of really great content here today. So I wanted to also remind everyone, Billerud is actually a sponsor for our upcoming conference that we're going to be hosting at Printing Unite. Just the day before Printing Unite. It's going to be an amazing conference, and we're really excited to have Billerud there as a sponsor. Christy will be one of the representatives from Billerud there at the cocktail reception in the evening. So if you haven't yet registered for either of those, please do so. The cocktail reception is going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a beer and taco night, and it's just a really casual kickoff to the event for the next 3 days. So without further ado, thank you, Peter, Steve, Tim, and Christy for your time today. It's always a pleasure to have Billerud featured in our webinars. So we will stay in touch. Everyone have a wonderful day.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.